Hello and welcome to GPTV on Tuesday, the 31st of August, another month down. My name's Philip Kingston.
And I'm Gary Peer, another month gone, Phil, and we get into the final big quarter of the year, I should say, third of the year, September, October, November, December. Yeah, that's not a quarter, that's a third of the year. Phil, big 4 months ahead, the biggest generally on the real estate calendar.
Gary, it's going to be even bigger this year because with this lockdown, as it continues and as it persists, we refer to the train wreck or the car crash, the highway pile-up of auctions all now looking like they're going to be October, November and December. We are going to have the busiest times. All I can say, Gary, is get yourself stocked up with carbohydrates and sugar because you're going to need an energy burst to get you through those 3 months.
I got no problem with that, Phil. No shortage of energy in the Peer household, Phil. We are Energizer bunnies, as you know, and very excited. Look, I did do another poem, but I think I'm going to relieve you of it because I know last week was a bit, it was a bit tough for you. So unless, we get a cry for it, it's a very clever one, I think, Phil. I'm not going to read it, but I've got to say, a lot of discussion about last week's poem. Some very kind people reached out to me and thought I'd missed my calling in life, Phil.
Let's put that into perspective, Gary, because I did see one of the many responses that we did get from viewers last week, but one said it was a bit flat. This particular woman, and bless her heart, shout out to her, was concerned about our mental health. But I just want to respond to that viewer saying, firstly, thank you for inquiring about how we are, because she described the show as flat. But I just ask you, oh dear viewer, if you had to sit through, as I did, that 3-minute dreary childhood schoolboy attempt at poetry, you'd be a bit flat too. And now that we don't have a poem to start the show, I'm up and about, I'm pumped and I'm excited.
I've got one ready to go, Phil, anytime. Just say the word and it's coming, but I'll relieve you of it this week, Phil. And instead, I'm going to go on a little bit, Phil, with my beef of the week. I've got some beef, Phil.
You're starting off the show with a beef, are you?
I've got some beef, Phil. I just think, look, I think we can open properties, Phil, at one-on-one. I think it should be allowed. I think it's essential. I think if you can go to Bunnings with 1,000 people around,
you can't go to Bunnings anymore, Gary. It's click and collect.
Okay, well, what about can you go to the sex worker anymore? Is that click and collect as well? Or?
I'm not sure, Gary.
Okay, well, I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue with my beef, Phil, because look, you can go to Costco. You can go there with lots of people. You can go into the supermarket. You can go to the fruit shop. I don't know why you can't have one person on one person, safe and sound and COVID responsible, take people through a house. Phil, it's a beef. I've got to tell you, Phil, I've got a beef. I think people should be allowed to do it, or allow a photographer to go into an empty property and film it, Phil, so people can do an online virtual inspection. I've got to say, Phil, I think these things could be and should be allowed. I don't think it needs a blanket rule on everything. I know that we're trying to get those numbers down, and I know that the government doesn't want people running around everywhere. I know, understand, and respect it, Phil. But can't we just have one-on-one inspections, or at least allow a photographer or videographer to go through a vacant property? Phil, have you got a good reason why that can't or shouldn't happen?
Well, Gary, first of all, I completely agree with you. It does not make sense that we're not able to. In New South Wales, of course, even with their now long lockdown, they're allowing real estate agents and the public to inspect houses on a one-on-one basis. But I did hear from a person that shall remain nameless, but I have a source on the ground in Sydney who, if this is not a flout of the laws, think this one through. So they booked some appointments to have a look at houses in Byron Bay and then flew from Sydney to Byron Bay to inspect houses. Well, they were there, I believe, for 4 or 5 days. They inspected 2 houses. Tell me if that's not a flagrant breach of what was meant to be a sensible rule.
Well, I think in good humour and good faith, Phil, you've managed to undermine what I've just suggested, because here I am suggesting that as good compliant Victorians, and we are I believe, a very compliant, okay, there have been some stupid things done. I understand there are some people that have done some reckless things, but fundamentally, I think Victorians are very, very compliant people, Philip. So let's not talk about those crazy New South Wales and Sydney bandits, Phil, that run around disrespecting. I believe here what I'm asking for can be done respectfully. We're talking one-on-one, going through a property. And look, I also know an agent in Sydney that had 80 people through a property. He had to wait every 5 minutes or 10 minutes to get them through separately. It was a long process, but it was a process that was adhered to safely. Phil, my beef is that we should be able to take people through, or at least let us get a videographer, or at least let us take people through a vacant property. Phil, I know we're trying to get the numbers down, but we've got to open up something somehow, somewhere, and property. It's a good place to start. That's what I reckon.
Well, Gary, just keep in mind for all of the viewers that might be tuttering now about what makes real estate agents so special. I'll tell you, nothing makes real estate agents so special, but stamp duty does make the state go around. So if you don't believe in the agents, in the welfare of real estate agents, think in terms of this. If you don't want your taxes to go through the roof as a result of debt spiraling out, the more stamp duty that washes around the system. And the only way stamp duty can wash around the system is if property gets sold. Now, just, if you want to talk about beefs while we're on the subject, Gary, I went to the park. Keep in mind, viewers, those of you will know, I was in isolation for 2 weeks.
Have you finished that now?
I'm finished that. I was let out on Saturday morning and I was terrified I was going to go somewhere where it was going to be a tier 1 site and I'd get locked down again. But I did go to the park, Gary, to see my 2 little nieces who I hadn't seen in, a couple of weeks. So we went to the park. There were that many people in the park. There were kids playing. There were adults talking. There was frisbee throwing. There was running. There was the screech and delight of young children and the subtle tones of adults talking to each other. It was frenetic. The cafe was open. Life, as you could imagine, was just going on in the park, except the play equipment. Oh, no, you can't play on the play equipment. You can have, 1,000 people in the park. You can have frisbee throwing and dogs jumping in the air, but no, you can't let little children go down a slippery slide.
Well, I'm not sure, actually, Phil, that you haven't just dobbed yourself in. And I know that there's a bit of dobbing going on at the moment, encouraging of dobbing, which is very, very different to the Australia that I grew up, Phil. When you're a dobber, you've got a clip round the ear or punished for doing so. But today, in an environment where dobbing is encouraged, I think you've just dobbed yourself and others in, because I don't think you're actually allowed to just go and hang out at a park, Phil. I don't think that is permitted under the rules to leave your home. So I think you're going to go back into the slammer in your home, spend another week or 2 there, because quite frankly, and by the way, do you think viewers are going to think poorly of me that I've never actually been to a Bunnings ever, Phil? That's how little I know about Bunnings. So,
well, in fairness, Gary, your brother-in-law is one of the best tradespeople known to mankind, right? So I'm just going to give Anthony Foxman a bit of a shout out on GPTV, because my father, as you well know, is a man of great sense of practicality and takes pride in all of the things that he does. He swears that Anthony Foxman is the greatest tradesperson he has ever encountered. So a bit of a shout out there. The reason you haven't been to Bunnings, Gary, is you just ring Anthony and he Bunnings for you.
And as you have for the last 40 years, you've come in and you've picked up my inadequacy and given me an excuse for it. And I really appreciate that and love you for it, Phil.
Gary, I'm always happy, as you well know, I'm always happy to highlight your deficiencies, but at the same time, I've always got your back.
Exactly right. You're happy to bring a solution together with the problem. I love that about you. And your father may well get his lifelong dream, or at least some sort of 60-year-old dream, which would be to see the Melbourne Football Club finally win. Phil, you are looking good. Don't want to put the mock on you.
Well, as a Melbourne supporter, we are true believers, but at the same time, we are absolutely nervous. We cannot quite come to terms with the fact that they are a really good side. We kind of just always think to ourselves, oh yeah, we're really just pretenders. But, everybody seems to be saying now that Melbourne are the real deal. This is not a club with jelly legs anymore. This is a team. This could be the team that raises the cup on grand final day. But as Melbourne supporters that have never seen a flag, you just can't quite believe it.
Well, they haven't won. Have they won in your lifetime?
Well, Gary, I was one back in 1964. So there we are, giving my age away for those of you that thought I was just in my 30s with my beautiful complexion and lovely skin that's, been looked after so well. But yeah, no, I wasn't there, Gary. And keep in mind, back in Cootamundra, the television set, which was in black and white, only had 2 stations, probably wasn't showing the grand final at the time.
Oh, I think there was a chance. I'm sure your father would have been tuned in. He would have thrown you around on his shoulders and all those years ago, you little bubba. And Phil, look, the Botox will only take you so far. I think people are probably going to be surprised, actually. I think there might be some out there that thought maybe you would have been already in your teens at that stage of your life. But look, that's okay. You'll get to see it hopefully this year. Good luck to you. You deserve it. Goodness knows. Melbourne have had a long...
Speaking of that, though, Gary, there was an article in the Financial Review. Every Friday, the Financial Review comes out with what they call an inside edition, and it's a lifestyle edition, Gary. They've been doing this for decades, and I was somewhat shocked that in the Financial Review on Friday, there was a whole article in the promotion of men using makeup. So let me just say to you that when it starts to get press in the Financial Review, men wearing makeup, I think we're probably on the cusp. And do you know why they said this, Gary? Because it's been something that's been brewing for years. But, when the viewers look at me with my lovely complexion, and then they look at you with your bushy eyebrows and your hairy nostrils, right? There is somewhat of a push for men to start taking their appearance more seriously. And this is a COVID thing, Gary. This is a response to Zoom. So the whole article was about how men, having looked at themselves really carefully on Zoom for the now almost 2 years, they're starting to realize that what women have realized for a long time is that a little bit of care goes a long way.
Well, I'm sure that would have made you feel validated, Philip, because I know when you prepare for GPTV, you spend a lot of time in the chair there, fixing yourself up, and you look a treat, Phil. I'll put it through you that way. And look, I'm the au naturel type, but I could do with a haircut. It's been a while. It's getting a bit bushy, Phil. But look, for people that are watching this for real estate, I think we must talk about property, Phil, because
at some point we might.
We might, and we must talk about property. And we promised the viewers the last few episodes, and I've been called out on this, Phil. We talked about how long does a property need to be on the market, Phil? What is the campaign period?
What a great question that is.
It's a great question, Phil, and it's a question that begs an answer and beckons an answer because, there was when you and I got into real estate all those years ago when properties were being sold in pounds, Phil, it was traditional that a campaign was a 5-week period, 4 weekends of showings it was, Phil, when we started with an auction, when, of course, auction's always been the way to go in the inner suburbs. In the 5th week, there was an auction, and it kind of dawned on us in the real estate industry some years ago, this was a bit too long, Phil. People would see it in week 1, 5 weeks later, it was too late, that already drifted off, so the campaigns became shorter. They became 3 weekends with the auction the 4th week. And lo and behold, Phil, we've now seen, we've seen properties that have been open for 2 weekends and a number of midweek inspections with auctions in the 3rd week. And of course, look at 15 Old Indus Street as a case study, Phil. It was auctioned on the weekend. Let's talk a bit about that. There were 5 bidders. The reserve on that property, Philip, was $2.2 million, handed down to us on auction day. The range was 2 to 2.2, so the vendor was seeking for the top of the range. Lo and behold, Philip, open 1 weekend and actually 3 times in total, sold for $2,602,000 with 5 bidders. What does that say about how often a property and how long a property needs to be open for?
Firstly, yeah, I'm just going to a shout out to the sisters, Gary, because this was handled by Arlene Joffe together with Maxine, and the buyer was found by Jan from our Bentley office. So great bit of teamwork there, but one for the sisters because they put this one away expertly at a really, really good price. But I must say, we're going to explore this thing, Gary, but keep in mind that this was essentially bought for its land. So really, what does a buyer need to see on this? They can Google Earth it, they can drive past it, and they can really walk the site. So probably it's not the perfect example, but I'm here with you, Gary. I'm in total agreement. My prediction for the year 2023 is that I reckon 50% of our campaigns will end up as a 3-week, not a 4-week, but a 3-weekend campaign with the auction in the third week. I think that one thing that technology is giving us is the ability for people to interact so much more easily with the property. And if you think about it, Gary, all of our campaigns, which are generally standard 4 weekends, 3 weekends of open for inspection, auction in the 4th weekend, we tend to get most of the activity week 1, good weekend week 2, with a drop off in week 3. Not to say that we don't find the buyer in week 3, but I think that really does give us the evidence that all of the activity is in the first 2 weeks. And the people that see it in the 3rd week, if they knew it was a 3-week campaign, would make more of an effort to see it in the 2nd week. So I think the market's ready for it, Gary. It will speed the whole thing up. Might even reduce a little bit of cost, because certainly you don't need as long a campaign. Therefore, those properties that are still in print, instead of being in 3 or 4 weeks in print, might drop to 3 weeks in print. Although I think that the cost savings are pretty much already been factored into the campaigns. But time is money, Gary. I'm with you here.
The other, of course, challenge to that is you could also be too quick sometimes, Phil. And I know that there was a property sold in a very good position in a very good street in an area that we're active in. And I don't think it really did get a fair run, Phil. And I think this is the dilemma here about if you try to do it too quickly, you can also cost yourself. So I think sometimes the answer has to be about getting the appropriate level of exposure, Phil, before you can make a call.
I know the property you're talking about, Gary. Obviously, it wasn't with us. It was with a competing agency, and we know the buyer who we acted for bought it at a significantly lesser price than what they were prepared for. I think that the overreaching caveat to this entire conversation, and you've touched on it, Gary, is everything we do is thought through and strategized. So we've got some campaigns that we actually turn into longer campaigns because as a result of looking at the strategy, we thought they needed more time in the market. Some we've reduced. This is a generalized conversation though. And I think as a generalization, we're heading towards a 4-weekend campaign becoming a 3-weekend campaign.
Yep, it looks that way, Phil. And I think it's really, this has really shaken up the thinking of many agents, and I think also buyers and sellers. I don't think sellers have got a problem with it. Buyers don't seem to either. So I think we're going to see a lot more 3 weeks. That's 2 weekends, and then the auction in the 3rd week, Phil. A lot more of those. And I think when we come out of COVID, there's going to be a lot of campaigns that way. And I think buyers are able to make a decision very quickly, Phil. I don't think they need more time necessarily. In fact, they want to be able to get through their properties quickly, make a decision quickly, buy or not buy quickly. So that's, I think, the big topic of the week will be the heading of GPTV. How long do you need to expose your property to get the best price and get the best result?
Gary, I just want to just to jump in here and just deconstruct that sale in Alinda Street, because that's a new record price for a block of land in Caulfield South of that description in that particular pocket. And yet the buyers for that were all very educated buyers. So it's not like that this was just a kind of an outlier sale. We had 4 or I think it was 5 people bidding for that. And each one of those buyers had understood the market. They'd been around in the market for quite some time. So I would call them all educated buyers. I think what's very clear to me, Gary, is, and we've been saying it for years, land is really the strongest commodity in the marketplace through this real estate boom. And if you think about it, if you're a buyer of a house, so let's use this as an example. Somebody buys a block of land for $2.6 million. Let's say they spend another $2 million building a house on that. So the end result is around $4.5 million. There's a stamp duty saving in buying the land because they're not paying stamp duty on what would have been the finished house. They get to be able to do what they want to do. And, you know, very rarely does a house come on the market, a brand new house come on the market where somebody can say, look, if I was going to build my dream home, that's exactly what I was going to look for. So we call land the blank canvas upon which you can paint your dreams. So I think that there's strong reasons that land will continue to perform well in the marketplace as the years go by. So anybody that is thinking about selling a parcel of land, please come forward. We've got 4 underbidders just alone from that one auction on the weekend.
So you've gone from an educational spiel to a sprint for more listings, Phil. I like your style, but you're right. Your educational piece was right, Phil. Land is hot and continues to get hotter. And, interesting, the block of land that we sold in Gardenvale Road, also very, very interesting how that was bought for somebody with a very long range vision, Phil, people investing in land for the long road ahead with a lot of faith and confidence in the market continuing to grow for land. And it looks like it will, Phil. Another sale that was made, 25 Blackwood Street, Carnegie, Philip, sold for $1,920,000. Well done to Jack Slater there. Another sale we made in Hyatt, Philip, in Enright Street in Hyatt. Prices undisclosed. But Phil, we've also made a number of sales last week at 80 Westbury Street in St Kilda East. Can you tell us a bit about this fantastic project?
I can, Gary. This is a fantastic project. This is the 3rd project for this developer in that street. So we've done 2 developments for him, which have been produced over the last 18 months. This is his 3rd in the street. We're on our way to being 50% sold out there. Julian Millman and the projects team have done a great job there. And Westbury Street, of course, is the most sensational location. So we've got the right product at the right price in the right location. So all the ingredients are there for a great purchase off the plan.
It's a street, Phil, that's had a wonderful gentrification and improvement over the years. I remember growing up, Westbury Street was kind of okay. It was always a good spot, but the real estate quality was kind of a little bit tiring at that stage. A lot of buildings that were built that weren't necessarily maintained well. But lo and behold, all these years later, Phil, they've been renovated, they've been improved, they've been developed, they've been updated, they've been subdivided. It's a street now that's got a beautiful wide street, Phil, and of course there's some fantastic properties through there. So it's become a little bit of a sleeping beauty. Phil had a bit of a kiss by the prince and woke up and was just made all that more magnificent. Phil, we've got a couple of auctions planned for this weekend. Do we know whether we'll be going ahead with them? No, we don't, but we can review them anyway. We've got a fabulous property in McKinnon Road, 5 at 227. McKinnon Road, Phil, what a great looking property this is. This is being handled by Noah Briggs, who's a delightful young man. This is 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 car spaces, Phil, in McKinnon Road, McKinnon. What a hot little pocket. By the way, Phil, there's a new bakery that's opened as well in Centre Road. It's been there for a while, but it was featured, and I actually went and found out a little bit about it, Phil, because I got some stuff delivered to my home from somebody who met me within the 5-kilometre radius, right in the middle there, Phil, because I wouldn't go beyond 5Ks, of course, personally to go there. But some great croissants, some wonderful things. A new bakery, Phil, in the end closer to Thomas Street in Centre Road, Phil, but near Wright Street. Great bakery.
Well, does it have a name, Gary?
It does have a name. It's a sort of a patisserie type bakery, Phil, and I've forgotten the name, but I'll get it put up on the screen. It'll be there now. Magically, it'll appear because I've forgotten exactly the name, but I'll remember by the time this goes to print. Phil, 3 at 31 Nelson Street, also due to be auctioned this Saturday, handled by the wonderful Rishi from our Carnegie office. This terrific property, 3 at 31 Nelson Street, St Kilda East, Phil. 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 parking space, and in that 5 to 550 range, looks like good value, and some lovely photos, Philip, online of that property. Looking forward to that one going to auction. We've got a property to discuss, Phil, that you know about. I don't know as much as you do, but we know it's a great address and a great property. That is 45 Bamborough Road in Caulfield North, handled by the lovely Arlene Joffe. Tell us about this magnificent home.
Gary, firstly, it's in the Paris end of Alma. I was going to say the Paris end of Bamborough Road, because there is a Paris end of Alma Road as well. But this is the Paris end of Bamborough Road, which is between Glen Ira Road and Balaclava Road. This is also on the western side. It's the most incredible period home that's had the most fabulous renovation done to it. And it's also got a whole different combination of the way you can use it. You can use it as one single family home, or a previous owner of the property had it separated into 3 different tenancies because it's got an upstairs area that can be self-contained or just used as the family home. Then you've got the most amazing area at the back, which is part of the garage, which can also be another tenancy. But I think it's best used, Gary, as a single family home with the most incredible entertaining areas and the most wonderful opportunity for all the family to have their own space. So I love this house. I love that location. I love the renovation. I love everything about it, Gary.
Well, it's 6 bedrooms, as much as 6 bedrooms, Phil, depending on how you want to live there, whether you spread out further and have less bedrooms, a more entertaining area, or studies. As many as 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, plenty of parking for 4 cars. Phil, looks like good value in that kind of low to mid twos, but gee, it's hard to appraise properties at the moment. What's going on? There's a scarcity of precedents to depend on what anything is or isn't going to get. So, at the moment, it's hard to know what will a property go for, Phil. And I know that we're entrusted with that big responsibility day in, day out. But gee, it's very, very difficult to know what anything's going for because so many properties are going so much more than agents, vendors or buyers expected at the moment. The appraisal game is a tricky game, Phil, a tricky game and a tough one right at the moment. But don't we love it anyway? Phil, that's a big wrap on this GPTV final August edition. Still plenty of activity, plenty of people out there wanting to transact. If only we could take more people through in a COVID-safe one-on-one basis. You never know. Maybe that opportunity will be presented to us as things get reviewed. Looks like we're going to stay in lockdown for a while. So for all of our viewers, stay well, stay safe, stay positive. We will come out of this. There is another side. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And Phil, vaccination is the key. And we've certainly gone on today to encourage people to do that as part of an REIV initiative to bring it out and tell people that's the way real estate agents want the world.
I think, Gary, we all have a duty to our family, to our friends, to our community, to the greater population at large to get the vaccination. The sooner we all get to 80% and beyond, the sooner life will open up. And this will just be a blip along the horizon of the things that happen in the world. Gary, another big episode of GPTV. Let's get out. Let's have a fantastic week. And may all of our viewers be safe, well, and happy. I'm Philip Kingston. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.
I'm Gary Pearce. See you next week on GPTV.